In this interview, I'm joined by Saiyidah Aisyah. Is that correctly spelled?
Yes, you said it perfectly.
Nice. Saiyidah is Olympian 2016 and the first Singaporean rower who qualified for the Olympic Games. Amongst her biggest achievements is a gold medal at the Southeast Asian Games in 2013 and more than 5 podium places at the Southeast Asian Games.
Yeah.
From my research, I found that there are a few interesting stories around you, and I'm looking forward to dive into those.
All right.
One of that is that you got yourself, or you organized a crowdfunding campaign for yourself to get to Australia to row and train in better conditions.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So it seems so long ago. So I was training in Australia in preparation for the Olympic Games because my coach is based there. And so during that period of time, I was teaching in a school in Singapore, but I took a no pay leave so I can train full time. And then it sort of came to a point where I was in Australia and my savings went dry. It was scary because at that time I didn't have any funding, so I was just using my own expenses to fund my training and competitions. So it came to a point where I was at the grocery shop in Australia and my card didn't work, and my bank told me that I had negative balance in my bank account. So it was scary because I didn't know what to do. It was I think 5 months before the Olympic qualification, and I had a choice of whether to go home and start working again because I can't work in Australia. I was on a tourist visa. Either that or I just have to find some ways to get funding for me to continue to train in Australia. So my friends have been asking me to set up a crowdfunding page, but I didn't want to set it up because I feel like it's not a nice feeling asking money from people, especially people you don't know. But my friends have been pushing me for many years. So I thought, why not just give it a try? And it turned out to be I received an overwhelming response. So my goal was just to, I think about $9,000 because I had to pay for flights, accommodation, food, transport, and competition fees and all that. So every month was $2,000, and it was 4 months to this qualification. So my target was $9,000, and it sort of became very big in Singapore when the newspapers featured me in she's going through this crowdfunding thing, and then Singaporeans came and helped me out. And it was amazing. So I reached I think I collected a total of $13,000. So that was pretty good. I didn't expect that, but it was really helpful because with that, with the financial problems or the financial part of my training being covered, I can focus fully on just training and not to worry about money, not to worry about, should I go back to Singapore and all that. So it helped me a lot in that journey towards the qualifications.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Nice. In your life as an athlete, what was your darkest moment?
So one moment that really stood out was so you mentioned that I was a gold medalist in the Southeast Asian Games. That was in 2013. So that was the biggest achievement at that point of time, my first biggest achievement. And then after that, usually in Singapore, what happens, especially in rowing because it's a small community, so after a major games like the Southeast Asian Games, you go back to normal life, not much training, you go back to work or school. And then when a major games comes out again, then you start training again. But I decided that if I want to be in the Olympics, I have to progress higher instead of going down and then come up again. So after that gold medal in the SEA Games, I decided to aim for another race the next year in 2014. And then another race again in 2015, which is another Southeast Asian Games. But I wasn't used to just increasing my training intensity again and again, because it usually like up, down, but this was like up and then goes up, up again. So at that period of time, I faced a lot of injuries. So I almost fractured my rib. There was a rib strain. I had a rib strain, and I was feeling like I don't know. I just sort of like so because of the injuries, I was out of the boat for a very long time. Every time I go for races, I came in last. So it was like a series of lots of injuries and losses, and I just became like I'm not confident in myself. I just lost all confidence, like completely. And this was like 1.5 months before the Olympic qualification. So, and then like I had started to have doubts. So I feel like I'm a very positive person, but during that time, it was really dark in such a way that there was no positive thought in my mind. Like I was like questioning, like, why am I doing this? Do I really want this? Like I'm running out of cash. Like, is this all worth it? So I guess that really was one of the darkest moments in my life.
And how did you recover from that moment?
So I was lucky. I'm really grateful because during that period of time, there was a mental skills coach who wanted to work with me, and he did it like on a pro bono basis. So he didn't charge me for his time. So he helped me. He helped me a lot. Like I don't think I could have qualified for the Olympic Games without him. So he helped me. It was because I was training overseas, so we only talk like through Skype. But he talked to me like every single day. So we talked about like letting go of expectations, because there was a lot of expectations for me to perform, especially after that gold medal that I won, and to focus on what I can control. So it was more of like him teaching me how to just focus on my, not really my goal, but on a daily basis, like having that small goals, and then eventually like once I get better, what's next. So instead of like focusing too much on worrying about the future, just focus on what I can do on a daily basis. So that helped me a lot. It was a very simple thing that he changed, but it made a huge difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from that?
So I learned that I need to let go of expectations. That's number one. And it's not just about telling yourself to let go of expectations, but I've learned that your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So I've learned that I'm not a mind reader, so I cannot read what's in my opponent's mind. So I might as well not think about it and just focus on what I can do. I've learned that I'm not a fortune teller, so I shouldn't think about what will happen in the future. I should only focus on my race, what I'm doing at that point of time. So it's more of like just controlling what I can control.
Interesting. And what was your best moment?
It definitely has to be when I qualified for the Olympic Games. So it was a race that, because Singapore is part of Asia, so it was the Asian qualification. It's about like 5 months before the Olympic Games. And in the single sculls, the women's single sculls, only 7 boats will qualify out of like 14 boats. So you have a series of races, and 6 boats have already qualified, and there's only 1 spot left. So I was in that race for that 1 spot. There was 6 other girls. And there was the 2 competitors, one from Qatar and one from Thailand. And the lady from Thailand, she's a 3 times Olympian. So there was so much pressure. But when I crossed that finish line, knowing that I crossed it first and I was going to the Olympics, it was like the biggest sense of relief. Yeah.
Cool. And what did you learn from that moment?
I mean, at that point of time, right after I crossed that finish line, I've learned to push myself 100%. Because when I got out of the boat, I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand for the next half an hour. But after I managed to like gather myself again and reflect on that moment, I realized that it's a lot of patience that involves in achieving your goal, because it was like a 10-year goal for me. It was a lot of things that I had to go through just come to that point where you get what you want. And I think it was, I've learned to I guess in that race, my coach told me that it was one of the best races he's ever watched me race in, and I felt that it was the best race I've ever done. But the thing was, I didn't think too much about the race. If you were to ask me like, how did the race go? I cannot recall anything about the race except that I was thinking about my legs. I was just saying legs, legs, legs for like 240 times. Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you could travel back in time 10 or 15 years, what advice would you give your younger you?
I would tell my younger self that sometimes things don't go your way because other bigger things will happen to you. So I guess we worry about why some things don't happen to us, but I think things happen for a reason. And as long as you don't lose hope and you continue to fight for what you believe in, like everything will eventually be okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I've written down something here. From my research, it seems like in 2013 you decided to go all in on rowing, right?
Yeah.
And from the records, it seems like you won your first medal at the Asian Games, Southeast Asian Games in 2007. So that means for 6 years you were a part-time international rower.
We train like a full-time rower.
Okay, but you
Yeah.
had other responsibilities.
Yes, that's right.
Would you advise your younger self to go all in earlier?
Whew. No. I think I did not regret what I did because if I were to go all in earlier, I think I will burn out even earlier. Yeah, because I think you need that balance in life. Like you need rowing or your sport and something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's another interesting one. I saw a documentary of yours and you said, my choice is to pursue my dream. I believe whatever I'm doing will make me happy. And then that will make the rest happy as well. I thought that's really interesting. Can you elaborate on that?
I mean, for me, I believe in doing things that make me happy. I don't believe in wasting my time on like doing things that don't make me happy because you only have one life. And I guess if you're happy, you will make the people around you happy. And those who are not happy for your happiness, you don't spend time with them anyway. So yeah, I strongly believe that, you know, there's this like really typical quote like, I do what you love and love what you do. Like, I strongly believe in it. Yeah.
It's an interesting one. There's also, I think, an economist called Adam Smith, and he said the same. His theory is that if you make yourself happy, others will become happy as well. So I thought I want to dig into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. What are the habits that make you a successful person or athlete?
For me as a single sculler, because I row on my own, I have to be like super self-motivated because I have no teammates to like push me on. So, and because I was training overseas for a very long time on my own, I had no family and like I had to find my own friends. So being like having to wake up at like 4:30 a.m. every morning and then know that it's like I have to tell myself that it's okay to like eat breakfast alone, eat lunch alone, or spend like your nights alone. Like you have to sort of like push yourself to do all these things. So I think that self-motivation was what made me like, I guess, successful in what I was doing. Yeah.
And then also I've seen something that I thought is interesting. You said when you started rowing for the first time, you hated it because it was very mundane.
Yeah.
And you started to love it when you won your first medal.
Yeah.
So is that that hunger for success, is that what drives you?
I guess so. I guess every athlete has that hunger for success. Otherwise, like, you will just be a recreational athlete. Yeah.
And I also read that you were very driven by proving the naysayers wrong that you could qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah. That was one of my biggest factor to push me to like go to the Olympics because people didn't believe in me. Yeah.
Just out of interest, who were these people?
Some of them are my family members because especially my mom, she knows that she's the biggest challenge in my rowing career because she didn't believe that it will take me anywhere. Because especially in sports, like sports don't bring you money. And she was very like, I mean, she wants the best for me. She wants me to be successful. She wants me to be able to like support myself. So will always say like, I will pray for your achievement. But I think deep inside, because I was her only daughter, she didn't want me to row. So I proved her wrong. And some other people are, especially before I became an Olympian, I was trying to look for like sponsorships. So there were a lot of companies and individuals who like tell me things like, you're not good enough. Why should we sponsor you? Like, who are you? So I get lots of like rejections like that, and I use it as like a motivation for me to want to prove them wrong. Yeah.
Do you have a morning routine?
When I was rowing, yes. So we have to be on water at like 5 a.m. So I wake up at 4:30 a.m. And for me, I feel I'm that kind of person who gets everything ready the night before. So I have all my gear, kit, everything in my bag. So when I wake up, I don't have to think. I just put on my clothes and get out of the house in like 15 minutes. So I wake up, brush my teeth. I usually hydrate myself, maybe eat a banana or something because it's so early you can't really put stuff in your body, but you have to because you are going to prepare for 2 hours training. And then usually training ends by 8 a.m. And then I go back. So right after training, I will eat my first breakfast. And then when I go home, I have a chance to eat my second breakfast. Oh, the beauty of being a full-time athlete. And then I will nap about like half an hour and then second training. Yeah.
When does the second training start?
So it varies. I don't have a coach for my second training because it's either a run, cycle, or a gym. So I do it on my own. So if it's good weather, I will do it like in the afternoon. Otherwise, if I have my third training in the afternoon, I'll do it like maybe 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Yeah.
And I saw you put multiple alarm clocks in the morning to not miss the training.
Yes. So missing training is my biggest fear. Like I always have nightmares that I will come late for training or I will not attend training. Yeah.
Has it ever happened?
Only once. Only once when I had a call in the morning and it was my coach asking me where I was. So that was the scariest thing ever.
After that, you put multiple alarm clocks.
Yep.
Okay. How do you prepare yourself for important moments?
I like being alone. So when a race is coming up, especially in the morning of a race, I like to spend time alone. I don't like to talk to people. And for me, I will always go through, when I used to row, I have this book of quotes. Like I write all these motivational quotes. And then I just like go through them. It doesn't really like help me during the race, but it helps me prepare myself mentally before the race. So that was like a routine for me. But whatever it is, I make sure that I go through the same routine that I've been going through like for 100 times. I make sure that like 2 weeks before the race, I go through the same routine. I don't change what I eat, what I drink. I know exactly when I'm going to eat, what I'm going to do at that point of time. Yeah.
And also I saw when you won the gold medal at the Southeast Asian Games, after that you said you were the only rower from Singapore, and that helped you to focus on what you needed to do because you were alone.
Yeah.
So is that being alone what you just mentioned? Has it started then or did you do that earlier?
Yeah, I think it started then because I was so used to like being alone, traveling alone, training alone. Yeah.
How do you overcome setbacks?
I embrace them. Like I feel that setbacks, and whenever I face a setback, I will always sort of like, okay, for example, one of the biggest setbacks I faced was 2 weeks before the qualification, the Olympic qualification. I went for a race and I came in last in that race. And my coach told me that if I continue to perform like this, we might as well not go for the Olympics. And like I was thinking like, of course I was sad. I was so sad and angry that, so I used to have another necklace, like an Olympic necklace. Like I threw it into the river. And then I wanted to give up on my dreams then. But to me, setbacks is a time when I stop everything I do and actually reflect on that situation. Like, why am I feeling like that? What I can do about it. So for me, it's a time for me to process my feelings, to give myself like another chance of trying. So for me, every challenge or a setback, I embrace it as a time to learn more about myself. Yeah. So once I change the way I think about setbacks, it doesn't like scare me anymore to like go through another setback. Not that I want to, but next time if it comes by. Yeah.
And when did you start doing that? On that moment prior to the Olympic qualification or earlier?
Earlier. So I feel that throughout this rowing career, one of the biggest things that I've learned from rowing is that you will face a lot of difficulties, you will face a lot of challenges and setbacks. But the only way of moving forward is to learn that after every time you fall, and when you get up, you're definitely going to get up stronger. Yeah. So it was like, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you. What did you want to say?
No, so I don't think it was that period of time before the Olympic Games. I think it was just like gradually inbuilt in me. Yeah.
That's also what they say about rowing. It makes you tougher, right? Because you are alone. It's the water, it's the weather. Regardless of whether it is, you still have to do it. So it makes you tougher as a person.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I read on your website, and maybe I'm paraphrasing here. When you have a dream, work hard to get there and don't ever let anything stop you from achieving it. Most importantly, believe. So if things don't go your way, how do you make sure you keep believing?
Oh, good question. For me, I guess focus on your strengths. So know why you are doing it. I think the why is very important. Because there will be a time or a day when you don't feel like rowing or don't feel like training. And that's when you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And for me, when I face that kind of days, I will always remind myself that, okay, my opponent will be training today. Why am I not training? So that why is important. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay. What's your why?
Because I want to prove people wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Who's your role model and why?
So I never had a role model. I don't know why I didn't have a role model. Especially in the rowing community in Singapore, I didn't have anyone that I looked up to. Maybe I will gain inspiration from different athletes around the world. I read a lot of like athletes' biographies. So I gain inspiration from them. But if you want me to tell you a particular person, like I can't really pinpoint the person. It's just a collective whole as like people who achieve their dreams. Yeah.
Cool. What's the best advice you received and who gave it to you?
One of the best advice I've received was what my coach told me, that you have to make excellence a habit. I know it's something from like Aristotle or something like that, making excellence a habit, but he was the one who told me that, okay, so the Olympic champion for my race is an Australian. So I raced with her before and my coach knows her. And he always like asked me, so what do you think she's doing now? You have to like, if you want to be a champion, you have to train like a champion. You have to eat like a champion. You have to wake up like a champion. So every little thing that you do in your daily life has to lead to what you want to get at the end of the day. So that was the mindset that I was like getting into. during that period of time. So making excellence as a habit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from Aristotle. It's we are what we repeatedly do. So
Yeah.
excellence becomes a
Yeah,
habit,
exactly.
not an act. Yeah. I've also made another note here I would like to ask you. You said
Sure.
like your coach once said to you, I'm hard on you because I care for you. And you said you didn't expect that. Why did you think was he hard on you?
Because he doesn't like me.
Okay.
No. um, he's a very grumpy man. So he was hard on me because I mean like you don't really think about it, but he's hard on me because he cares on me. He wants me to be successful. But when you're training on the boat and you're suffering and then he's hard on you, of course there will be like times when you like hate him and want to shout back at him. um, but the fact that he was training me for like 2 years for free and he was there at every training before me, and it just shows that he he loves not only the sport but he loves the fact that he loves coaching me and he wants me to succeed. And yeah, I said that because there was a race in Rio which I did perform really well, and he was really angry with me, and I was just crying and crying, and he doesn't shout, but the things he say are like hurtful. And then like I went to change, and then when I came back, that was when he said, I'm hard on you because I care for you, and then I cried even more. Yeah, it's just I think the coach athlete relationship is a very like tricky one because you have a love hate relationship with your coach. But yeah, at the end of the day, I know that he cares for me. So yeah.
How does a typical training day look for you? Can you take us through from morning to evening what you do?
Yeah, sure. So like I mentioned before, 4:30 a.m. alarm clock. No more like 4:30, 4:32, 4:35. So drive down to training center on the water. So I usually stretch about like 15 to 20 minutes before training, and then on water by 5 a.m. train about 2 hours. So out of the water by 7 a.m. and I make sure that I do another stretching session after that, at least half an hour. And then while I stretch, I have my post-workout meal, which I realized was very important for me within that 30 minutes window. And then go home, shower, have my second breakfast, and I will have time to like rest. So one of the biggest thing I've learned as a full-time athlete was resting is very important. Resting means get off your legs, like you sit down, you lie down, you just have to learn how to do nothing. And then if I have a second session, we are back on the water again at about 10 or 11. Usually it's if it's on water, it's a technical session, so it's not so hard. But otherwise, it's a gym session or a run or a cycle. And then when you're done, so because I was a full-time athlete, so when I'm done, I eat lunch and then I can do whatever I want for the rest of the day.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to nominate someone to be interviewed?
Sure, I will nominate someone. I used to sail. I used to be not used to be a sailor, but when I was trying out for the Olympics, I changed sport for a bit. So I was doing sailing, and I sailed with this girl called Griselda from Singapore, and she qualified for the Olympics as well in 2016, and she's now trying out for Tokyo. So Griselda from Singapore.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
I am active on social media. So I have a Instagram account, and handle is Aisyah, AriesyaH. Otherwise, I have a Facebook page for it's called Aisyah Rower, but the thing is, after Rio, I was trying to get away from being a rower, being identified as a rower. So it was, sometimes I will update it, sometimes I don't, but I'm more prominent on the Instagram. And I have a website, aisharower.com, where I also talk about like life beyond sports. Yeah.
And where's your life going now? If you say you want to go away a little bit from rowing, where do you want to go?
Yeah, so I am now waiting for school to start. I am doing my master's program in sports psychology, inspired by my mental skills coach who changed my life. So I'm hoping to be a sports psychologist someday.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. That was really great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
I enjoyed